Saturday, February 9th is the date. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Figure Four Podcast. My name is Doug. This episode, Donald and I are just going to do a little general wrestling talk. We'll call it Wrestle Talk. We're going to touch on everything from Vince McMahon selling his shares to Sting's retirement. Just a quick show to get out there. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's go. So Vince McMahon sold 5,350,000 TKO shares at $77 a share each for a total of $411,950,000. He retains 15 million over 15 million shares he retains. So his total investment in TKO is a little over $1.2 billion as of Friday's closing with whatever.
That's a lot of scratch.
Now, but the big question is, why is he selling so much? Is it just like he doesn't give a fuck anymore? He's out of the WWE. He's got nothing to do with TKO. It's either we're going to settle what's going on with this bitch out of court, and I still want to have a big lump sum because he's still got lots of shares. He's still got lots of investment. Obviously, he's got to pay some damn good lawyers.
Yep.
Or is it, again, that he just doesn't care what happens with WWE and TKO anymore? How old is Vince McMahon now? 76?
I was going to say mid-70s.
In around there. So has he finally hit the age where his brainchild he just doesn't give a shit about anymore? Or is it lawyers? Or is it try to settle out of court with this woman? Or what's your take?
I think it's kind of a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. He's mid-70s, at least. He knows he's not going back to TKO, and one of the heads of that dragon recently came out and said Vince has nothing to do with this. He's not coming back. I think he's kind of understanding now, like, well,
oh no, he's totally Chris Benoit now. Like he's
100%.
They're making sure like his name is, well, they want his name forgotten now. And again, it's like our last show. These are only allegations, but they're pretty damn strong allegations with some pretty damn strong proof. He hasn't been officially charged with anything, but I mean, he's being Chris Benoit and they want nothing to do with him. But again, it's not the first time with this guy.
It's not. But I mean, the difference between this time with the allegations and the last time, he came back after, everything was settled, whatever it was, like in 2021, 22, whatever that was. He ends up coming back to resume his role within the company. He forces a bunch of other people out, but now you've got him basically liquidating his stock in the company.
Pretty much.
TKO has come forward and said, Vince has nothing to do with us anymore. He's not on the board. He has no power whatsoever. He's not coming back. I think this is Vince's way of saying, well, fuck it. I'm at this point in my life. This is what's going on. And maybe it's a way for him to disappear. I mean, whether, a portion of this money is going to be put forward to pay off lawyers or pay off, the Miss Grant. I mean, and then he just disappears. He buys an island down south and just.
There was another fucking island that some shit went on too. It wouldn't be a very good look for him at this point.
Right.
So that's the latest in the McMahon saga. There's no new evidence or any of that shit going on.
It's gone pretty quiet.
What I did find was McMahon's first complainant. Rita Chatterton was her name. She was the very first female referee in, I don't know about wrestling, but in WWE.
Yep.
Back in 1986, she said Vince had told her she was going to be a star and her face on magazines. Now I've basically taken notes from an interview she did, and of all places, it was on the Geraldo Rivera show. So this was in the '90s that she did this. So I mean that show is Jerry Springer, but I mean this is from her own words.
Yep.
So yeah, Vince said she was going to be a star and her face was going to be on magazines. I have a contract of $500,000 a year. Now, this was in 1986. I don't think Hulk Hogan in 1986 was making $500,000 a year.
I doubt it.
I mean, maybe he was, but that's an awful lot for a female referee. Referee, not even a
Yep.
wrestler. Uh, Told her she was
Not even a valet,
yeah,
a
a
ref. Like
referee.
you, yeah.
Supposedly, as time went on, she was getting less and less work. So she, at one point, went to New York to find Vince McMahon and have a talk about her career because of her lack of work. Wherever they filmed TV, she found him wherever they go, or it was in the building somewhere. And he invited her to lunch. So there was Vince McMahon and a bunch of other people at lunch. She wanted to talk about her career, and Vince McMahon kind of, in her words, put his finger to his lips, almost like, "Shh, keep it quiet," because there were people around and stuff. Um, he said, "Let's go somewhere else to talk." So she followed him to another restaurant or somewhere, a bistro. Uh, got out of her car and went to the limousine, and the door opened up. Supposedly, McMahon said something along the lines of, we just spent a couple hours in a restaurant. I don't want to do that again. Just hop in the limousine. We'll talk about it here. We'll go for a drive, whatever." Um, as she starts talking about her career, he unzips his pants, tells her that you have to satisfy me if you want this $500,000 a year job and all this stuff. So she gives him oral sex, and she couldn't get him off while she was blowing him. So then he got upset, reminded her again, if you want that $500,000 contract, you have to satisfy me. So that's when he actually had intercourse with her. And when he was fit, and then she went back. And when she had first started with the WWF, she was told that any sexual encounters or relationships with anyone in the company, you're gone. You're done, kaput, that's it. Supposedly, when Vince had his way with her and did what he did and was all happy, he looked at her and said, "Remember when you started with the company and you were told that if you ever have relations with anyone in this company, you're done? Well, you just had relations with someone in the company." Ha 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 ha. Supposedly, he zipped up his pants and started laughing. Uh, she was asked why she had waited so long to come forward, and supposedly she had went to an attorney shortly after this happened, and the attorney said, "Well, there's no evidence. It's your word against his. It's basically a losing battle." She said, in this interview, Murray Hodgkins, who had also got a lawyer with the WWE, I think that's the guy that wouldn't sleep with Pat Patterson or vice president of operations, whoever it was.
Right.
He was on that show as well. She Rivera Geraldo asked her, was she ever offered hush money? And she said no, she was never offered a dime, which makes her story even that more believable, because when you look at Vince's track record, it's hush money, hush money. Vince has paid more for pussy than he paid for what he paid for the XFL both times. She wasn't offered a dime, which makes, and that's out of her own mouth. So I totally believe her. Whereas Murray Hodgkins said he was offered money, but Vince McMahon on the Phil Donahue show had said, you told me you wanted money or you were going to come and lie and all this stuff. He said, you said this, you said that, bullshit. But she
Yep.
wasn't offered a dime to be quiet. I've tried to find if anything happened after that whole thing. I can't find if it was settled, if she ever got any compensation for this bullshit. But I know she has done an interview. She is on YouTube somewhere, and you can find. I never listened to the interview, but I think it was done in the last. Well, since this Miss Grant made her allegations against Vince McMahon, so it's recent. I've seen still clips, but I haven't actually listened to what she had to say. So maybe there's an answer whether she ever got compensation from what happened in 1986
Yep.
and after she came forward in 1991. But like I said, I didn't listen to it. But I know there is a recent interview out there with Rita. It's just, like when we did the last show and we talked about Miss Grant said that she wanted her name public and she wanted to come out because in the hopes of other people coming out now. Well, this
Yep.
lady Rita came out in 1991 it would have been 91, 92. Didn't seem to do much there, but there was no evidence. And now Miss Grant has some pretty heavy evidence with the text
Yep.
messaging and stuff like that. Um, we took a bet. Well, not really a bet. I had asked you, what's the over under 10, more than 10, and you agreed with me. It's going to be more than 10. But now Rita's come out, like I said, and I wanted to listen to try to find her interview before we came on and did this, but I didn't have time. Um, but who else is going to come out? There were a few females in prominence in the WWF when we were growing up. Like I remember in the 80s, there was a female announcer. I can see her in front of me. I can't remember her name. And she worked there for a long time and she was actually like pretty good. I can still see her in her suit and she had blonde, like kind of poofy, somewhat curly hair. I think she was related to a wrestler. I could be wrong. But I wonder if anything happened with her that she's just never talked about. It's like, when are these so far? And again, there's no official charges against McMahon or anything, but so far we both said it's going to be over 10. We're losing that so far.
I mean, I think the big problem, well, it's not a problem. The big difference between what's going on now with Janelle Grant and with that female referee, the big difference in both of these cases is I'm just going to say it, it's social media. There was no social media when that took place.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely having a huge impact on it.
Uh, um, do I think her case holds any water? I absolutely. I mean that we're talking about a time when the industry, like mid '80s, late '80s, wrestling was booming. You know,
Huge.
it was huge. Um, People doing things to try to get ahead in the industry, not necessarily just in WWE, WWF, but people trying to make a name for themselves in the industry as a whole.
See, that's why I'm wondering. I tried to find what happened with this with that lady,
Yeah.
the female referee Rita, because supposedly now I did find an interview with an ex wrestler. He was an enhanced guy jobber, Mario
Yep.
Manzini, and
Yep.
he went to her or she went to him and told him what happened. And as soon as she had said to him, he told me to get in the limousine. Manzini knew right away. And again, this is on YouTube. He said, "Oh my God, you didn't get in that limousine with him."
Yep.
So he knew he knew what was going on with McMahon back then. But whenever McMahon had told her, remember what I told you about having anything to do with anyone in the company? If you get caught, you're fired. Well, you just did. She said she was done a few weeks after that. So, like you said, coming on this show, that was as close to social media as you had back then. There was no social media up until about how long ago? I remember, what was the closest we had to social media? What was that? It was like a chat when we were in Nova Scotia. ICP? No, it wasn't ICP. It was basically
You're breaking up, man.
Oh, am I breaking up? Okay, we got her back. There we go. Technical difficulties. My internet sucks. But yeah, Mancini he knew what was going on back then. So, I mean, and like I was saying before, what was that? The closest thing we had back in the day, and this would have been like late 90s, early 2000s for social media. We would have had, it was like ICQ or something.
Yep.
It was, and that was just a chat. That's all you could
Yep.
do was chat. That's the closest thing to social media we had. So whenever this came out in 86, TV was all you had for social media, which is why Miss Grant's story is just taking off. And without social media, it wouldn't be as big.
Yep.
Because not even the news, I mean, the news will touch on it because it's Vince McMahon and he's a billionaire and all this stuff. But social media, YouTube, all that stuff has just like blown it up. It's too bad for this lady, Rita Chatterton. I think that's her last name. I hope I didn't mispronounce it. It's too bad she didn't have that back in the day. She had Geraldo Rivera, which is fuck, you know.
I mean, that was basically the TV equivalent to the National Enquirer.
Pretty much, yeah. It was,
yeah.
You know, it's like going on Jerry Springer and airing your dirty laundry.
Yep.
So yeah, that's about all I have on her. I couldn't find anything else, but like I said, she has done a recent interview since Miss Grant's shit's come out with Vince. So you can find it on YouTube if you just type in her name. But like I said, I haven't listened to it.
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have already done an entire show on McMahon, but I want to say it was either Rockin' Robin or someone who was coming up through the ranks with Rockin' Robin, who was going to a wrestling school that was run by the fabulous Moolah.
Yeah.
And of course, she was like kind of like a feeder for women wrestling back in the day. And now apparently, again, that these are just allegations, but apparently she was basically told, if you don't sleep with Moolah, you're not going anywhere. So that's just another instance of,
well, Moolah,
you know,
yeah, Moolah was, I think that was actually on Dark Side of the Ring. There was something about that on there.
Yeah.
And she would even like, she would whore the girls out. Moolah would, absolutely.
100%.
And even whenever they went to the WWF, whether it was Wendy Richter or Rockin' Robin, I think Moolah took like 30% of their contract. Whatever they
crazy
were
like
paid,
that.
which actually wasn't uncommon back in the day, because, you know, like the veterans got to eat too, you know, like whoever trained you type thing. But there was a lot of sketchy shit went on in the WWF and just in wrestling in general back in the days. I mean, Jesus, you could write an encyclopedia from Grizzly Smith and the fabulous Moolah to Vince McMahon, and that's just, geez, that's not even the indies and smaller territories back in the day.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
it's just that it's not acceptable anymore. And back then, nobody talked. You didn't rat on anyone back in the day if you wanted, unless you didn't want your job, you didn't talk. You know, back in the day, but that was pro wrestling. Moving on. The Icon has retired. 30 plus years, 35 years in wrestling. The Stinger is gone. I still can't believe at 63, 64 years old, that guy was doing what he was doing.
Dude, he was jumping through tables.
Guy was
one of the
balconies. Jumping off balconies. Like,
I mean, he was doing stuff that like the Hardy Boys were doing at the age of Ric Flair. Like
Yeah.
when Flair was coming on the end of his run, I'm like, okay, I know he's in good shape, but like I get out of bed in the morning. I'm 45. I get out of bed in the morning and it's like my knees are Rice Krispies.
Oh
I hear
yeah.
snap, crackle, pop,
I stretch and I fart and I can't stop it. It's just going to come out.
right?
And this guy is putting himself through tables and jumping off of balconies and like flying through the air. Like he obviously, like Darby Allin, when they were tag teaming, would do his part, but Sting could still go. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he doesn't need the money. He did it because he loved the business. And what's cool is during that match, because him and Darby were AEW tag team champions. And the old adage goes in wrestling with the veterans, when you go out on your back.
Yep.
And sorry, not Darby, Tony Khan and the Young Bucks would have none of it. They wanted Sting and Darby to win that match. And it took some convincing for Sting and Darby to win,
Yep.
because you just, like I said, veteran, you win them in the ring and you lose them in the ring. But when you're a veteran going out, it's better to go out on your back right there. Everybody knows that. But yeah, it took some convincing, but he did it. Did you see the interview that he had with Tony Khan after?
I did not.
I didn't watch the pay-per-view. I just saw some clips of it. But he got talking about, oh, what was it? Something to do with Luger, and steroids came up. And Sting said he admitted to using steroids, like basically from 86, but he said steroids for him ended in 1990. And he brought up the Ultimate Warrior, where Warriors just kept following him, which I thought was like, ooh, a Warrior shot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I
They
knew,
used to be tag partners,
well,
him and
yeah,
Warrior.
yeah. And that's what Sting, that he didn't say it per se, but it was basically like he was using some steroids too, but obviously not the way Jim Hellwig was. But
Right.
Hellwig's routine was a lot. He said, geez, he said, I was 260 pounds and I still looked like a kid compared to Jim, but it was, yeah, it was good to see Sting go out, and he's getting out with no real injury. I mean, aside from that neck issue that when he was in WWE, when he took that buckle bump from Seth Rollins, they thought he'd never wrestle again. And then he came to AEW and wound up wrestling, which was cool. But it's good to see Sting go out with, I mean, aside from the neck, no real injuries. And now he can enjoy his money and his grandkids and just enjoy life after wrestling. Geez, 35 years or whatever it was. That's enough. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body, and saying a lot of I'll be home tomorrow, and that's pretty impressive.
That's a lot of missed birthdays, man. Like that's a lot of commitment to the business. I saw the match. Um, it was, I mean, it's what you would expect as Sting. I thought it was pretty cool that his kids came out dressed as like the different variations of Sting over the years. I thought that was pretty cool.
I couldn't believe his
Um,
son that had like all the USA stuff. I had to take a
yeah,
double take. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like the Wolfpack Sting was good too,
yeah,
but All American Sting, I was like, "What?" They could have passed for twins. Like he
I
could have been
know.
the fake Sting if they wanted to do an angle now.
Totally, totally. I thought it was really cool that he incorporated his kids into the match. Um, I'm still trying to figure out the idea, like what was the purpose of Darby Allin jumping off the ladder to go through the pane of glass?
There was no
I
point. It was a high spot to make
like,
everyone love Darby.
yeah. Um, all in all, I mean, I thought it was a good send off for Sting,
Yeah.
and he's openly said like I didn't necessarily need to win the match, but it was the Young Bucks and Tony Khan that basically said, no, this is your last match, you're winning it. Like,
I didn't care. I mean, I didn't care for that Darby Allin spot going through the glass, but for a storyline, I get it,
yeah,
because Darby falls from that height. He goes through the glass. Now he's out of commission for X amount of time. Sting's getting a beat down, but the ultimate hero has to make a comeback, right? So
Right.
storyline wise, I get it, but I don't care for those high spots. I don't mind Darby Allin. I'm not as big on him as other people are. But if he keeps doing shit like that, he's all he's doing is taking years off his career. He's
Yeah.
still young, but I think that that drop that he just took probably took 2 years off of his career.
Oh, no
You
doubt.
can't keep doing that. Like eventually he's going to have to evolve and stop doing this high risk bullshit and just like he's not a good wrestler, but he uses a lot of speed, a lot of high flying, and like risk taking, like that coffin drop thing that he has. He's going to get in the ring with a guy like Samoa Joe, and Joe's just going to turn around and walk away, and he's going to go splat because
Yep.
Joe is famous for doing that. Like, and obviously it's planned, but it's like it only takes one bad fall, and you're going to be out for a while. And again, there's more years off your life. But anyway, hats off to the Stinger for a career. Now, the last thing I want to touch on, WrestleMania is looking good.
Yep.
Um, it's looking really good. Like I'm looking forward to. We talked about this earlier. That gauntlet thing is going on for the Intercontinental title. I'm telling, and we talked about this before. The way that like he's so down on himself, but people are picking him up. Is Sami Zayn? I guarantee you, he's winning that gauntlet match. And I hope to God he doesn't beat Gunther at WrestleMania. I don't think he's not the guy. He's not the guy to beat Gunther. I think
No.
Gunther still deserves some time with that title after making it relevant again. Like Gunther has beaten a couple of good guys, and Sami Zayn is not the guy to win that title. Not to beat Gunther. That's my opinion. Um, what I'm loving is the whole bloodline thing. So now they're going to be on night one and night two guaranteed.
Yep.
So Roman's actually got to work. He's going to be sore come Monday. Um, the Rock, when they do that one thing and they put their hands up, he's been doing it for weeks now. He's making that loser symbol. Now I don't like spoilers. I don't go out and I don't try to find. I don't read the dirt sheets or anything like that. I like everything to be a surprise. Now I'm wondering, is he showing people like, hey, I'm not really with these guys, or is it just like a mistake that he's making? Because it doesn't. It lasts a little while and then he pulls it back in. But is it almost like a foreshadow? Like I'm gonna wind up fucking this guy, or whoops, my bad, I didn't mean to do that.
I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks. Um, I, and this is just my thought. I haven't, like you, I haven't looked up any rumors or dirt sheets or anything like that on the internet. I think this is a play because even go back to last night, and The Rock was very adamant about the stipulation about the first night of WrestleMania. If Cody and Seth win, the bloodline is completely out of night two.
I
They
still
step
don't
back.
believe that. I think it'll be hippopotamus shit. They'll figure something else. They'll bring another cousin in, or they're gonna fucking pay off the camera guy. Like, eh.
Something will happen. Anyway, so he's claiming that the bloodline will be completely out of night two, but if the bloodline wins that tag match, then it's bloodline rules. So he keeps on doing the L and then, puts his finger back or his thumb back into his fist, whatever. I think I think this is a form of trickery that, he's siding, although he's acknowledged Roman as the tribal chief, the head of the table, whatever. I think it's going to be a way of The Rock basically saying, I'm secretly going to fuck over the bloodline.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. You know what else I was thinking too? As much as I can't fucking stand him, who is that Grayson? What's his name?
Waller?
Oh fuck, I hate this dude. So, but it seems like over the last few weeks, it looks like they're finally close to getting uh, A-Town down away from him. Looks like they're
Yeah.
kind of like on the outs a little bit. But what I was thinking was during that pay-per-view, or whether or it was a Raw, I can't remember. Paul Heyman went to him and said, "The tribal chief wants to see you. It's for your ears only," or whatever. And he's got that show, the Grayson Waller effect, or whatever the fuck it is. If you look at history, I think it'd be funny and entertaining if Grayson Waller was almost like that was his platform for the tribal chief, for Roman Reigns. Because if you look back through history, every dictator has done this. Hitler did it. Any communist government fuck, Justin Trudeau has the CBC. Every communist leader, every dictator has a platform. I think it'd be funny, and I think it'd be entertaining as hell if Grayson was the mouthpiece, like his show was the platform for Roman Reigns. I think it'd be as funny as shit. I don't know why I thought of that. I thought of that earlier today. I was like, Jesus, that would be hilarious. I mean, it'll never happen. It'll never friggin' happen, but I think
I
it'd
mean,
be awesome.
we kind of saw that though. Like, think back to the days of like the original Piper's Pit. Like the guys that Piper would have on, it was majorly like heels that he would have on.
Yes, but it
Um,
wasn't dedicated to just one person to
no,
spew the propaganda. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah.
You know, like
I mean,
if you had Reigns just on his show, and you could have other guests, but everything he says, he like deflects off back to Roman Reigns and the bloodline, and you know, like everything they say is gospel, and you know, like fuck everyone.
it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that's a good angle. I never even thought about
I
that.
don't know why I thought of that. I thought of that yesterday or today. I can't remember it. I was like, that'd be friggin' hilarious, but he's too goofy. I mean, Roman Reigns would wind, the whole bloodline would wind. Solo would take that thumb and drive it up his ass. You know, like he could, just because he's too goofy and he's always smiling and stuff, and Roman doesn't like to smile, and Solo doesn't, and Paul Heyman doesn't, and the Rock
I
is
mean,
the only one that somewhat smiles.
Solo looks like he's constantly fucking constipated.
So what do you got? Do you got any you got anything else there?
Um, Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to do a pre WrestleMania show at some point. When does Priest cash in? Because Money in the Bank is coming up in June. Like I know he's attempted to cash in a few times already, and they were foiled. When does he cash in at Mania?
I don't know. You know what, I'll be honest, I don't think he does cash in at Mania. I really don't think he does because, correct me if I'm wrong, as of now, is it Rollins and McIntyre for that World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania? I believe it is.
Um, that's confirmed for night two.
That's for night 2. But but
Yep.
but they are fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that's too big a match for for Damien to cash in his Money in the Bank. What they've never done is for someone to hold that thing over the one calendar year. I was thinking about this the other day too. They've never done this angle where you have 365 days to use that briefcase. I'm looking at WrestleMania. I'm like, no, it's not the time, because he's not going to cash it in for a US title. He's not going to cash it in for an Intercontinental title. He's going to cash it
No.
in for a World Championship. I'm almost thinking now, because I'm trying to run scenarios through my head and I can't come up with a good one. I'm almost thinking it would be cool to see someone actually not cash it in time and actually be stripped of it. It's null and void. You didn't use it. You tried a few times, but they didn't count. They weren't official. And then he goes back in, wins Money in the Bank again, and cashes it in that same night and wins.
I never thought about that.
Again, it's just different because I can't. there's no way, in my opinion, and again, we'll do a show on WrestleMania. There's no way, in my opinion, he's going to cash that in at WrestleMania against McIntyre or Rollins. The only way he would cash it in is if Rollins won the match. He's not going to cash it in on McIntyre. He'll cash it in on Rollins, but I think Rollins, and spoiler, I think Rollins is losing the belt to McIntyre at WrestleMania anyway. So I could see him cashing it in there. If Rollins won, he'll cash it in and he'll win the World Heavyweight Championship. But I think that match is, like I said, is too big. They're not going to waste Money in the Bank and ruin that match for night 2. Or whenever they have it. That's why I came up with the other one. Well, they've never done an angle where someone has actually gone over the 365-day allotment, strip them of it, and then put them back in, make them win it again, cash it in that night and win. Patience is a virtue, right? Just a thought, but I don't know. That
See, my thought, and this is just me, shitting out my ass. I think he's not going to cash in on Cody and Roman. Like that's its own beast.
He's not a guy to hold the WWE title. He's not that guy.
My take is that he's going to cash in not after Seth and Drew. He's going to cash in during the match. And only because it's coming from the standpoint that Drew he's been on the doorstep.
Yeah.
He's been there. And Seth has beaten him how many times so far? Like twice, something like that.
3 times, something like that.
Two or three times. I think they're going to go at it from an angle. And again, this is just my take. Drew was always going to be the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of thing. And because he's been playing that, like he's been playing that card. I have to do this, when I was champion before, there was never anyone in the stands and all this kind of shit. And he's had opportunity after opportunity leading up to Mania. I think he cashes in during the match. Does he win it? I mean, he keeps on talking about adding gold to the Judgment Day. He's said that to Gunther about the IC title. Dirty Dom is apparently going to fight him. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go.
I hope he gets butt fucked.
Yeah, I think he cashes in during the match, not after the match. Turns into a fatal like a three-way threat or whatever they call them. Won't be surprised if Rollins retains, but it's going to add to the storyline. I mean, that's just my take.
Yep, I agree. There's a few different ways it can go, but I'm thinking, I don't know. And again, we're going to do a WrestleMania show. There's still a few weeks before WrestleMania, so they still have shit that they can work out. But as of now, I'm going to say he's not there. There's just something there's something that's missing with Damian Priest. I mean, he is going to be a world champion. There's no doubt about it. He's going to be a world champion. Oh, we have problems again. There we go. We're having a lot of problems with internet tonight. It sucks. But yeah, he's missing something. He's going to be a world champion someday. Someday he's going to be a world champion, but there's something missing, and I don't know. We'll see what WrestleMania has in store, but not anytime soon. I just don't see at WrestleMania he's going to cash in that Money in the briefcase, that Money in the Bank briefcase. And that's going to do it, guys. That's our show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be back next week or maybe the week after with another show. Until then, my name is Doug. I'm out.